What's going on, guys? This is Martyrs Brigade 99 coming to you once again with another session of Bloodborne commentary. Alright guys, so this time around I want to talk about the evolution of PvP. Alright, the thing that made me kind of think about it is I PvP'd a little bit within the last couple days. And as a matter of fact, before I even start talking about that, let me just give a quick little update. So the thing is, I'm really enjoying the game right now. I've played through the game probably about 3 times so far. I've created my first character, and I want to experiment with a few other characters. There's some mistakes that I've noticed in the character creation that I want to try to improve upon in some of my later builds. And the absence of a mutant monkey at this point right now is just a lot of experimentation, doing the math, trying to figure out which builds will give you the more optimal results at a lower level. Whereas we had the mutant monkey for that in Dark Souls 1, we don't really have that right now. So it really causes you to pick a certain class, do the math, add points, and try to figure out, is this basically the best class for me? So that's basically where I am. I currently have quality build, strength skill. I'm almost complete with an arcane strength character. After that, I'm probably going to dabble a little bit with skill, blood tinge, and a few other categories. So that's basically where I am. I haven't really made PvP a priority at all because I am really enjoying the PvE. But aside from that, every now and then I'll decide to do a few invasions, right? And that kind of brings us back to the evolution of PvP. Now, if you're watching this video, then more than likely you guys know me for the contributions that I've made for the Dark Souls 1 series. I've made a couple hundred videos on that game. Now, if you were to go on my profile and you were to look at the videos that I have, and you go from oldest to newest, I think the first video that you'll see is a montage that I did. I believe the name of that video is Day of Atonement. And, I was still early on. I know a lot of people have heard me tell this story and back in some of my Dark Souls videos. Is when I first started, I was basically a black iron mom with a lightning rapier with the hornet ring. And all I did was fish for BS's. And I went through several phases. I went through that phase, and I went through the dueling phase, the 56 poise phase, the 53 poise phase, the 41 poise phase, and I even got to the point to where I had become so proficient with the toggling that for a while I went 0 poise. And that was basically evolution. For the community as a whole, you would notice that if you look at some of the older Dark Souls 1 videos, there was a lot of R1 spamming with claymores, R1 spamming with the Moonlight Greatsword, R1 spamming with the Black Knight Great Axe, because at that point we didn't know how to counter it. Then we learned the parry timings. And as we learn these things, it caused players to change their actions. Whereas in the early days of Dark Souls 1, you can R1 spam with the claymore and not get punished for it. As the weeks and the months developed, people started to kind of slow that down because we all started to learn when to parry. Right? And like I said, there have been a lot of developments. There was a stage when we were going like, full Havels with Darkwood Grain Ring, full Giants with Darkwood Grain Ring. Then the patch came out. Then people had to make a decision between the Darkwood Grain Ring and the fast roll. And then during the last phase, which kind of turned me off, was the damn Havel Mom stage. That was the stage that was really no variety. All the variety pretty much disappeared because everyone wanted to become a Havel Mom. Now, I know you'll get the pro tier who'll talk about efficiency. I understand all that stuff about being the most efficient build and all that. At the end of the day, when all you see is Havel Moms, it was disgusting to me. Because out of all the weapons, all the armors, all the combinations that you could put together, all the ways that you can test your own proficiency in gameplay. It was basically all narrowed down to a Havelmom character. So, I mean, by the time people started to make that transition, I was already onto the PS4 and playing other games. Okay, so here we go with Bloodborne, right? And some of the observations that I've made so far is basically a whole bunch of wild R1 spamming. You kind of wait until your opponent gets somewhere around, half or a quarter health, and then all of a sudden you spam your damn pistol or spam whatever other firearm you're using, because everyone is desperately looking for that parry riposte. And when I think about that, I just kind of think about, what if this were Dark Souls 1? What would that look like? What it would basically look like is you playing your opponent. You kind of get them to half life or below. And from that point on, all you would do is run up to them and parry spam. It's basically the same thing. So this is where I'm seeing like the early stages. What you will see is in this particular video is right now me using the Kirk's hammer. In past Souls games, the pattern has, I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with the pattern. Everyone go after the fast swinging dexterity, or at least in this case, the skill weapons. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to start off with the strength weapons because they're more difficult to wield. A lot of people are turned off by having to overcome some of the shortcomings that come with the slower swinging weapons. So I wanted to start off with that because I already knew some of the skill-based weapons, blood tinge type weapons, were a lot easier to learn. All right, so that's basically the phase that I'm going in right now. So when I'm looking at the evolution, and actually what you're going to notice in this video is actually a lot of losses. And it's not that I care about whether I'm showcasing wins or losses, but I like this video because it's going to be an example, as the weeks go on, as the months go on, and maybe depending upon, how PvP develops, perhaps even in the years go on, where we started in the beginning. And you can use that as a barometer for where we will be later on. In Dark Souls 2, basically everybody started off with the damn ballroom dancing. They called it mind games, to unlock. You run around in a damn circle for 30 seconds and then you go in for an attack, throw a couple parries out, unlock, run around in a damn circle for another minute and a half, and then you engage again. People will say that, Dark Souls 2 is all about mind games. I would argue that the so-called mind games were, they basically existed to compensate for the lack of controls. The lack of controls that we had in Dark Souls 1 and in Demon Souls. Whereas, the character movement was a lot more crisp, a lot more accurate. You could do a lot of things with it. Dark Souls 2 was a lot more sloppy. Right? So, because, if you just look at every game that we have 4 installments now. Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and Bloodborne. In no other title did you see any other, and I'm speaking in particular with the PvP, did you see these type of mind games that existed in Dark Souls 2? I have a reason to believe that it has a lot to do with the controls, but it is what it is. So basically, like I said before, this is all about the evolution. What will PvP turn into? Right now is a lot of brainless R1 spamming, and then it's the bloodthirsty firearm spamming because everybody wants to get that parry. At least in the early stages, I'm going to try not to focus that much on firearms because I really want to get proficient in the weapon that I'm using. I want to make sure that I become good at using my weapon and not heavily depending on the parry. Not saying that there's anything wrong, I'm just talking about my own approach to PvP. As I start to create, more and more builds, as I'm finishing all my playthroughs and all that, I'm going to start to invest more time into PvP. And that's basically what I'm going to be doing, becoming less reliant on the firearms, more reliant on space and timing, the type of weapon that I'm using, distance, the whole nine. I really want this title to be good and to develop in PvP. So that's about it. It's just a short video. I didn't really want to make a long one. But hey, let's comment, let's talk about it, let's have a nice dialogue. How do you see the evolution of PvP in Bloodborne? All right, guys. Well, hey, I'm out of here. Martyrs Brigade is